Let me ask you something. How would you describe this person? Female, yellow skin, Asian, a young generation? What if she starts talking in something you've never heard of, something that sounds like this? Well, you may be like, it should be an Asian language, I guess, or is it a language or just a bunch of random sounds? What if she now points to a map and tells you that she lives in the United States? You may be like, wait, this can't be true because I'm sure that she's definitely not talking English. What if she now starts talking English and tells you that her favorite movie is the Star Wars and her favorite character is BB-8 who talks like this? Now you may say, oh, it makes sense now because she was probably just mimicking that character. What if she now takes off her wig and makeup and switches to a low muscular voice and tells you that he is an actor who was trained to speak in different ways? After all of this information, let's go back to our very first description: female, Asian, and young generation. My question for you now is, will you still subscribe to this description? The description that you used at the beginning was indeed the identity that you see in him. We place identities and labels on people who we just met by forming a basic description in our head. This label can sometimes be created even before we start talking. But the question is, does our perception of their identity matches with their own perception of their identity? And more importantly, how could we know this? Well, the good news is you don't have to read people's mind because we have language. Agamben once stated in one of his books that in ontology, the relationship between language and world involves the suspension of denotation in the form of a lang, and that language can subsist only by grasping the non-linguistic. What he is saying here is the link between language and world does not necessarily need to be established through a specific and abstract linguistic system. This link, or this space in which language or lang starts to have meaning, was indeed built up by the non-linguistic. Let's now take a look at our story from this perspective. When you hear the person talking to you in something you've never heard of, do you immediately associate it with a language or just sounds? See, the problem here is we don't know. We don't know if that something is a language or just a bunch of sounds. And we will not know until we can establish some links between that something with other non-linguistics, such as a person, their clothes, their country, and the list goes on and on. That non-linguistic, which helps us determine if what we hear is a language or just sounds, is identity. This can be the identity of a person, the identity of a community, or just the identity of anything that the language attaches to. It is the being of the language. It is what makes a language, not just some nonsense random sounds. Identity justifies language, and language sustains identity.